back on the travel brochure project, and we've created all of our pages. We've got a style sheet that does styles. We're going to focus on creating a navigation bar, and we're going to do this in stages. Stage number one, we're going to begin by I want to show you every selector we're going to use, how to select them, and then what role it plays in this grand scheme of things. And then we're going to get the general nav bar to work. And once we've done that with the general nav bar, then we're going to add some CSS3 stylings to look at gradients and hover, like glowing effects and other kinds of things. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. On the right, we have my navigation bar, navigation.css. On the left, I have the page. This is my home page. But all of my pages have a link to navigation.css. So that's where we're going to style our nav bar. So what we're going to do is we're going to style, and I'm going to go ahead and put some notes on here. A horizontal nav bar. Okay? So that's what we're going to do. So the first thing we want to do is create all of our selectors. Now, in this particular one, I've added some classes, one to the nav, one to the UL, and we're going to add another one in just a moment. But really, if we're going to make a nav bar, it starts with the nav tag, and it works its way in. So what we're going to do is we're going to be very methodical, and so we're going to start from the first tag to the innermost tag, from nav to the A. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and create a nav, and then we're going to target the main nav, just in case we decide we want to have different kinds of navs. So I'm going to put a nav.main nav. Now, I could just as easily have just put nav there and not given it a class of main nav. So it's your choice how you want to do it. Because a nav element could be like a main nav bar. It could be little miniature nav bars that are vertical ones. So you might want to target it that way. So I'm going to go ahead and actually, before I do this, let me do a little, I'm going to backspace this out. I'm going to start here like this. Okay. And we'll style them in just a moment. Then we're going to go into the UL. And we can target it one of two ways. We can target it as nav UL. And what this is we're saying a UL that's inside of our nav. That's a more generic way to style this UL. The other way we could do it would be just to do a UL, and notice it has a class of navbar. So we can put ul.navbar. Okay, so either one will work. For variety's sake, I'm going to go back to the nav UL, but if you want to, this is a very appropriate way to do it. Instead, I want to show you the different ways we can do it, so that's how I'm going to target it that way. We call that a contextual selector, so we're saying this is a UL that's inside of a nav. And then we want to target our LI as well. So you can target it any number of ways. If we use a contextual selector, I would do it as nav and then LI. Now, I would not do UL-LI because any list item in an unordered list, we don't want to do some of the things we're going to do here. So we're specifically targeting inside of the main nav. Now, this is an appropriate way to do it. Or if you want to get fancy, you can just put .main nav li. And as long as you know that this main nav is part of nav, then you know that's going to work. Okay? So that's another appropriate way to do it. And so I think for consistency's sake, let's just go back to nav, and we'll just do it that way. Okay? But just understand those are different ways to do it. Next, we want to target our hyperlinks that are inside, and it's also important that it's inside the nav. So we're just going to go ahead and keep it consistent. We're going to do nav A. Now, we also want to have hover effect. So we're going to go ahead and add nav A:hover. And at this point, these are the main ways we want to do our nav bar. Now, if you don't want the hover effect, you can skip that selector, and you don't have to use it. Okay. But the other thing you might want to consider, another thing worth considering is, what about like a navigational aid to show us what page we currently are on? And so this is another very common style way to do it. And so let's say when we're on the home page, and by the way, we're working on index, which is the home page, we might want to make this hyperlink, this button look different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a class on here equals, and we're going to write current. And I'm going to go in here and I'm going to put a.current. Okay. Now, what this is going to allow us to do is style the current page link differently. So that way, when we go from page to page, we can see what page we're on. And this requires adding a class to that link because it's a special kind of link. This is a current link. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy this and I'm going to place it on all my other pages. So this is a really important step here if you want to do this styling. And this is going to be optional for you if you're in my class, but this will be a nice option for going above and beyond. Notice how this is my index link. So what I want to do is open my other pages, but before I do, I better save this. Now I'm going to click open, and I'm going to do this on every page. So I'm going to go to adventure. And now I'm on adventure. It's high adventure. And so this link here is my link to adventure. So I'm going to paste the class of current. Be careful, though. Make sure there's a space after the element name and before the attribute, and a space in between attributes, or it will run an error. Save my changes. Go ahead and open Barad-Dur. And here's the link down here. So I click and I add my class, save my changes, file open, Doom. And I find where the Doom link is and I add it in there and I just proceed to do it for the rest of the pages. So I'm just working my way down the list. I already did index, so we just need to do nightlife. Yeah, the nightlife in Mordor is just wonderful. Anyway, so now you'll notice on each page, nightlife current is on the nightlife link. And then on Doom, you'll see it's on Doom. So I'm going to go ahead and skip. I'm just going to close these. I don't need all of those open. Okay, I just want one as a reference, so I'm going to keep index on this side open. All right, so at this point, we have all of our selectors. So let's just go through and explain what each one is done, what each one can do, and what it's there for. First of all, nav, which is our main nav, is going to surround everything. So this is great if you want to style up your nav bar. You want to add like a background graphic, a background color. You want to set the height to it, maybe put some kind of a chrome, which is kind of like dressing around your links and stuff. So anything that's for style, you put in the nav. However, we do not need to actually target anything to turn it into a nav bar here. This is all for show. The UL does require a very important step here, so we're going to add this. And we're going to go ahead and just add in the pieces we need. Okay. So now as we're looking here, the UL has one of the most important things we can do on the UL is change the list style type. And we're going to set it to none. And what this is going to do is it's going to remove the bullet point from our list. So let's just see what it looks like. I'm going to launch index. And I'll bring it over so you can see it. So you look here. Oh, wrong. I'm on the wrong. Oh, don't tell me I did the wrong page. I'm looking at the wrong index page. Silly me. One moment. Okay, now we're on. Oh, I can't believe I did that. Okay, so now we're on the right page. Let's launch this one. Notice, home, nightlife, high adventure. There's no bullet points anymore. Okay, we've removed those. So we're going to do that because a nav bar with buttons looks weird with a bunch of bullet points on it, so we remove those. There's one other thing you might want to do. If you look at the page, let's go back to the page. If you look here, everything's indented. Okay, so what we want to do here is let's remove margin and padding. Margin 0, padding 0. Now, before I add padding, let me just show you what happens with margin. And some of the browsers do it differently. When I remove margin, it moved up, and the content below it moved up, but it didn't change this gap over here. But when I remove the padding, and I set it to 0, now watch the change on the site. See, now everything's over to the left. Okay, so you do want to remove padding from the UL. That is a crucial piece here. And technically speaking, all of these, we probably should zero out the margin and paddings on all of them. It's not a bad idea. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy that, and I'm going to get rid of that in my main navbar. Paste. Save my changes. All right. Okay, so we'll do that on the others in just a little bit, but I want to cover a couple other topics here. All right. The next thing we want to do, right now we have a vertical navbar, right? And that's because these are block level tags. So I'm going to turn on my little developer tool from Chrome, and I'm going to highlight on each of these. And now if I click on, excuse me, if I click on the list item, you see how it extends the width? And that's because it's a block level tag. Okay, so we want to not display it like it's a block. By the way, you can see on here, somewhere on here, it says display block, and that's user agent, which means that's what Chrome does to it. All browsers do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the display. We're going to change it to inline block. And what that does is the inline aspect makes it like a hyperlink or an image tag where it's only as wide as the content. But then block allows us to style it differently. We can put borders around it, and we can do other sorts of items that we couldn't do on just an inline tag. So I'm going to save my changes there. And now let's go back and look at it. I hit refresh, and now you'll see, look at those, all the links are just line up like that. Okay, it's inline block, and this gives us the horizontal navbar field. Now, everything else on here is going to, the nav A and the nav A hover are going to allow us to display it more like a button. By the way, our list item here, we can also target that like a button if we want. Now, one of the things we're going to do is, because we have hover on here, we're going to add some styles to our anchor tag and to the anchor tag when it's being hovered. And then I think that's all the time we'll have on this particular video. And so I would add both color, background color, and we're going to add color. We're going to add background color on our hyperlink. Actually, I should probably switch these two. All right. So watch what happens when I style that. I hit refresh. Now we've got a black background and a regular color. The only way we can change the hyperlink is by directly addressing the hyperlink. We can't do it indirectly. The last thing we want to do is add some padding. And this is a very important step for our hyperlink. And I like to do like less padding on the top and the bottom than I do on the left and right. So I'm going to add a 0.5 for top and bottom and a 1 on left and right. And remember, that's the width of the character. So when I highlight it now, we've got those. Okay. And the last thing we're going to do is on our hover, we're going to go ahead and we're going to reverse those two colors. Now, the way to reverse it, you can just highlight this background dash and drag it up like so. Either way, or we can just move the color codes. I find that's the easiest way to do it. I'm going to style my changes. Let's go ahead and hit refresh now. And now watch what happens when I hover. You see how it reverses those colors? So it allows us to see that this is a nav bar. It just sort of reinforces that. That's basically it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you. I'm going to basically do what's called clone in Notepad++. I'm just going to clone this to the other view. And now you should be able to see everything that you need. Good luck working on this brochure.